It started with something innocently magnetic. His jacket, abandoned after our twilight coffee at the corner cafe. I remember smooth fabric slipping from his shoulders and folding over the back of my chair, as if already inviting me. I watched him leave, jacket caught beautifully in the low evening light, and I paused halfway through gathering my things, because something in that moment whispered, "Stay." I picked it up, held its weight in my arms, and the world narrowed instantly to its scent. Subtle tobacco, a faint whiff of cedar from his aftershave, and something else. I can't name it, but it made my pulse thrum with curiosity and far more. I squeezed the fabric, and that secret in the pocket fluttered like a heartbeat I wasn't prepared for. Attention. I unfolded the pocket lining with trembling fingers and found a folded scrap. A tight crease in the paper hinted at secrecy. I pressed it between my fingertips, hesitant to look. Heat in my cheeks. My breath hitched. I glanced around to see no one. Just the empty cafe, dusk settling in. The hush felt intimate, conspiring. Interest. I slid the paper out. My stomach clenched as I smoothed it open, revealing words scrawled in his looping handwriting. Something about tonight, by the river. I need you. Just those fragments, but they cracked open my imagination. It struck me then, the jacket wasn't just his warmth. It was a key. My heartbeat stuttered as a cascade of permission and tension washed over me. Sensual atmosphere built itself around me. The hush of the deserted street beyond the cafe window, the dying sunlight caressing the table's edge, and the muffled hum of city life. I pressed the paper to my lips, tasting his words as if they were breath, as if I was meant to share that moment with him. Desire. In that flicker of time, I imagined him leaning against the riverbank, jawline traced in moonlight, breath wavering, hope shimmering in his eyes. I felt a tremor in my fingertips, knowing this scrap belonged to a rendezvous not yet realized, or already stolen by me. My fingers curled into the jacket sleeve. The fabric felt alive. I questioned myself. Should I reach out? What claim did I have on this moment? A mischievous spark lit in me, daring me. You could go to him. Or you could. I swallowed, caught in the ache of wanting something forbidden. Something that belonged to him yet felt achingly mine now. Cliffhanger. So I slipped the note into my pocket, draped the jacket over my arm, and walked out into the night, with the paper burning against my thigh, and the question echoing in every pulse. What am I going to do now? I didn't go home that night. Not right away. I wandered with the jacket draped over my arm like it belonged to me now. Like I was wearing him, his scent, his silence, his forgotten moment that had somehow become mine. The city buzzed around me, but I moved like I was underwater, slowed by the gravity of a decision I hadn't even admitted out loud. The note kept whispering through the fabric of my jeans, begging to be read again. But I didn't. I already knew what it said. And more dangerously, I knew how it made me feel. I walked by the river. The place he mentioned, half out of curiosity, half out of a desire I didn't yet understand. I told myself it was coincidence, that I was just passing through. But my steps betrayed me. I slowed as I approached the water, as if something ancient inside me expected him to be waiting there, leaning against a lamppost, maybe watching the moon ripple on the surface. And for one wild moment I thought he was tall, jacketless, back turned. My breath caught as I stopped mid-step, heart leaping into the hollow of my throat. But when he turned, it wasn't him. Just a stranger. Desire shouldn't hum like this. It shouldn't ache between thoughts. But somehow this jacket, this note, had awakened something reckless. Something intimate and mischievous and warm. Like hands under a sweater when no one's supposed to be looking. I sat on the cold stone bench and wrapped the jacket around me. The lining was smooth, lived in. I let my hands drift into the pockets, half hoping I'd find something else. A gum wrapper. A movie stub. Something that would make him more real, more touchable. But there was nothing. Just the memory of how he looked earlier that day, shoulders relaxed, laughter like velvet, and the unspoken electricity that had passed between us more than once, and yet never crossed the line. Until now. I leaned back, tilted my head to the sky, and closed my eyes. And just like that, he was there. In my mind. His hand brushing mine as he reached for his coffee. The way his smile always lingered a second too long. The way his eyes dropped, only briefly, when I leaned forward to speak, like he was memorizing the edge of my mouth. None of it meant anything. Until now. Now I wondered if the note was meant for someone else. That thought hit harder than I expected. My heart gave a twist, sharp and almost childish. Why should it matter? We were friends. Or at least we'd never been anything more. Never said anything more. But I had this jacket. And this note. And the weight of a question I couldn't stop touching. I went home wrapped in his scent, the cool night air prickling against my skin. I slipped inside, locked the door behind me, and held the jacket to my chest like it was breathing. Then without thinking I slipped it on. It swallowed me. Like arms from behind. Like something between comfort and possession. And when I looked at myself in the hallway mirror wearing it, I didn't recognize the woman staring back. There was something about her me that looked claimed. Invited. Hungry. That was the first night I dreamed about him. I shouldn't tell you what I dreamed. I won't. But I woke up tangled in the jacket, sweat at my collarbone, breath uneven, lips parted like they'd just been kissed. And when I reached for the note again, I found something else tucked behind the seam. Another piece of paper. Folded tighter. Hidden. With my name on it. I stared at the folded paper like it might burn me. It had my name, scrawled in his handwriting just slightly slanted, like he'd written it quickly, maybe impulsively. The ink was slightly smudged, like he'd hesitated. Like he'd touched it again after writing it. I held it with both hands. And for a full minute I didn't breathe. How long had this been in his pocket? How many times had he worn this jacket with my name folded silently inside it? Was this a note he never meant to give me? Or one he meant to slip quietly into my hand but lost his nerve? My heart thundered. There was no one to ask. Only me, the jacket, and this folded slip, soft now, as if the fabric had been keeping it warm. I opened it. Slowly. Like undoing a secret. There's something I haven't said out loud. I think you already know. But if you come to the river tonight, I'll say it. I'll stop pretending I don't look for you in every crowd. I read it 3 times before the words sank into my skin like heat. He wrote this to me. It wasn't for someone else. Not some mystery woman. Not a stranger. It was me. And I missed it. He waited. And I wasn't there. I sat on the edge of my bed, jacket still wrapped around me, bare legs pulled to my chest. The silence in the room grew louder with every second that passed. The paper trembled in my fingers. Or maybe I was the one trembling. What would have happened if I'd found it earlier? If I had gone? I pictured him, standing by the river, pacing, maybe watching every figure that passed, hoping one of them would be me. Maybe he stayed an hour. Maybe more. Long enough for hope to sour into something fragile. Something like regret. Now I was the only one who knew. The confession was in my hands, and he didn't even realize he'd left it behind. A thrill ran up my spine, sharp and dark. This wasn't just a missed moment. This was power. I could return the jacket tomorrow. Hand it back casually. Pretend I hadn't seen the note. Or I could say something finally. Admit that I'd felt the pull between us two. That I'd imagine what it would be like to let it happen. To stop being careful. But a different idea sparked in me. I slipped the jacket off and laid it on my bed, smoothing it out. Then I took the note, his note, and folded it back the way I found it. But instead of hiding it again, I placed it on my nightstand. Beside it, I started writing something of my own. I didn't know what I was going to say, not really. I only knew my pulse raced as I put pen to paper, and my mind kept drifting to things I'd never dared say aloud. About the way his eyes lingered when I pushed my hair behind my ear. About the way my skin lit up when our arms brushed. About the things I imagined when I fell asleep in his jacket. The pen paused in my hand. Would I give this to him? I didn't know yet. But it felt like a boundary had already been crossed. A veil lifted. And now all I could think about was him reading it. His hands. His breath. His reaction. And somewhere behind all that, a hunger I wasn't ready to admit had already taken root. The note I wrote him wasn't innocent. Not even close. I told myself it was just a reply. A mirror. Something soft, something honest, something that could sit next to his words and feel like an echo. But as soon as I started writing, something darker poured out of me. Not explicit. Never that. But undeniably intimate. The kind of honesty you whisper against someone's skin when it's too dark to lie. I wrote about the first time I noticed him watching me, how it felt like gravity. About the time he brushed my lower back at a party, barely a touch, but it followed me for days. I told him the truth, that I had wanted more. And worse, I still did. I didn't sign it. Just folded it carefully, slipped it into the same pocket where I'd found his. Then, I waited. Waited for a reason to return the jacket. For an excuse to be near him again. I told myself I'd give it back the next time I saw him. That it was only right. That I wasn't trying to manipulate anything. But days passed. He didn't call. He didn't text. I started to wonder, did he forget about it completely? The silence felt like a dare. On the third night I wore the jacket out. Not by accident. I went to our usual coffee shop, same table, same corner seat. Just in case. Just to see. My hands were buried in the sleeves, the note tucked inside. And his scent still pressed into the lining like a memory that wouldn't let go. And then he walked in. The air shifted. My body went rigid in that soft slow motion kind of way. Like the moment before thunder. He didn't see me right away. He was scanning the crowd. Eyes flicking through strangers, and then he stopped. On me. His gaze dropped to the jacket. Recognition. Then confusion. Then something else. He walked toward me, cautious, like the space between us was fragile. Or maybe dangerous. His eyes locked onto mine as he reached the table. And then softly, like he didn't want to scare it away. You found it. I nodded, mouth dry. I was going to text you, he said, slipping into the seat across from me. But I didn't want to seem forgetful. I offered with a small teasing smile. He laughed once. Quiet. And then his eyes dropped to the table. He looked different. Quieter. Like he'd been somewhere else in his head for a while. You, didn't happen to find anything in the pocket, did you? He asked, glancing up again, unsure. My heart pounded. Just your hands, I said, brushing my fingers down the sleeve. And something folded. His breath caught. I wasn't supposed to see it, was I? I added. He didn't answer. The silence between us was heavy. Magnetic. Every breath started to feel like a decision. Then I saw it. He reached toward the jacket. Slowly. His fingers slipped into the same pocket. And when he felt the note I'd placed there, my note, his body froze. He looked at me. Right into me. And I held his gaze, unflinching, every part of me buzzing with the question he wasn't asking. I stood up before he could speak. Keep it a little longer, I whispered, sliding the jacket off and handing it to him. You might find something else next time. I walked out with my hands bare and my pulse throbbing in my wrists. Behind me I could feel his eyes still on me. Burning. The air felt colder without the jacket. Not just the wind against my skin, but the silence too. The absence of him. That night I couldn't stop thinking about his fingers brushing the note. The moment his expression changed. There was something sacred in that split second of discovery. Like I had reached through him without touching his body. And maybe that was worse. Because now he knew. He knew I'd seen the note. He knew I answered. He knew I'd been inside his thoughts. And he had stepped inside mine. But nothing else happened. No text. No call. Not even a knock. Just silence. It drove me wild. I'd lie in bed at night. The ghost of his jacket curled beside me like a phantom lover. My body would react before my mind could catch up. Heat blooming under my skin, breath shortening, fingers clutching the pillow a little too tightly. I imagined him reading what I wrote. Not just reading, feeling it. Letting the words sink in. I pictured his hands tightening around the paper. His jaw clenching. His eyes darkening. The quiet, private way a man responds when something touches him too deeply to name. And I wondered, was he thinking about me now? Was he imagining the same things I was? The kitchen lights off. Me pressed against the counter. Our breath sinking. My name on his lips, not like a question, but like a confession finally freed. I was spinning. That next morning I opened my phone a dozen times. Typed a message. Deleted it. Again and again. But then he beat me to it. One line. I kept the note. And I'm not done reading it. That was all. But it cracked something inside me. I responded instinctively. Then maybe I should keep writing. The dots on the screen danced. Then stopped. Then started again. I waited. Not breathing. Finally, his reply. What would you write if I asked you not to hold anything back? My fingers hovered over the keyboard. My whole body was trembling. This wasn't flirtation anymore. This wasn't just suggestion. This was an open door. I stood up from the couch, restless, needing to move, to feel something solid under my feet. The room felt too small. My skin too tight. I pressed my palm against my chest, trying to calm the storm building inside me. I thought of him, somewhere across the city, jacket on, my words pressed against his heart. I wrote one more line. Come find out. I didn't hear the chime of the reply. Didn't need to. I already knew. Because somehow deep in my stomach, I could feel him move. I didn't plan to open the door that way. Barefoot. Hair slightly damp. One shoulder of my sweater slipping off like a secret I didn't mean to tell. But there I was and there he was. He didn't speak right away. Neither did I. The moment held its breath between us. His eyes swept over me. Not greedy, not casual. Just slow. Reverent. Like he was memorizing something he hadn't realized he was allowed to see. The jacket clung to him, still holding the weight of everything we hadn't said. I could feel it between us, the memory of those notes like an invisible string pulled tight, buzzing, humming, threatening to snap. His hand was in his pocket. I knew exactly what was in it. I wasn't sure if I should come, he said. But you did, I whispered. I couldn't stop thinking about what you wrote. My breath faltered. My throat tightened. Did it change anything? I asked. He stepped closer. Barely a foot between us now. His voice dropped. It made everything harder to hide. There was heat in those words. A current. He reached into the pocket slowly, fingers curling around the note. Pulled it out. Unfolded it, eyes never leaving mine. I've read it every night, he said. And each time I picture you writing it. Where you were. What you were wearing. Whether your hand was shaking. It was. His lips twitched, not quite a smile. I liked the part about my hands. I meant every word. Silence again. But not empty. Not even close. I didn't move. Not even when his fingers reached out and brushed my arm just once, barely there. But it lit up my entire side like fire. His hand dropped again. Hesitation flickered behind his eyes. And that's when I knew. He wasn't sure if he could. If he should. If touching me, really touching me, would cross a line that couldn't be uncrossed. So I leaned in. Just a breath. Close enough to feel the warmth between our lips. Close enough for my lashes to flutter from the air between us. His eyes closed for half a second, like the tension was too much. Like he was trying not to fall forward. Tell me to stop, he said hoarsely. I didn't. I couldn't. Because in that moment, stopping would have been the lie. The truth was in every heartbeat. Every glance. Every page folded in that jacket's lining. The truth was in how his hands hovered like they were aching to memorize me. And still we didn't kiss. Not yet. We stood like that, breath to breath, heat to heat, long enough for my legs to go soft and my resolve to thread itself around him. I need to know, he whispered, what you really want. And my answer came without thought, without fear. I want to know what happens when we stop pretending we don't. His eyes closed. His shoulders dropped. Like that sentence finally gave him permission to exhale. But then, his phone buzzed. Once. Twice. He didn't look at it. But something shifted in his posture. He stepped back. Not far. But enough. I should go, he said. Voice low, conflicted. My heart sank. But he wasn't finished. As he turned, he took the note with him, still folded, still mine, and said over his shoulder, "Next time leave the door unlocked." Then he disappeared into the night. The door stayed unlocked for 3 nights. 3 long, aching nights where every sound in the hallway made my breath catch. Every creak of the floorboard sounded like a step closer. I wore softer things. I lit candles without thinking. I moved through my apartment like I was being watched. Not in fear but in desire. In anticipation. But he didn't come back. Not yet. On the 4th day I got a message. Not from him but from her. His ex. We'd never been close. Just mutual circles, occasional smiles, polite nods. But the message was warm. Friendly. Almost too casual. Hey, random, but did you find something of his? He thinks he left a jacket somewhere near you. My stomach dropped. He hadn't told her. He didn't tell anyone. This jacket, the notes me, were a secret. I wasn't sure whether to be thrilled or terrified. I typed a quick reply. Yeah, I've had it. He picked it up already. Then I stared at the screen, fingers hovering over the keyboard, chewing on a truth I hadn't expected to taste. She still had access. She still asked. Still cared. And suddenly I wasn't just the woman in the jacket. I was the secret. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the look in his eyes, that unfinished tension, and I couldn't stop thinking about her. Not out of jealousy. Out of something darker. Stranger. Curiosity. What had he looked like when he loved her? What had she seen that I hadn't? Were there pieces of him that only unlocked in her presence? And God help me, I wondered. If we were ever in the same room, would I feel it? Would I see it in the way he glanced at her? Would his body give him away? And more dangerously, would he glance at me the same way while she was there? That thought hit me like ice down my spine. And I didn't hate it. It was twisted. I knew that. But I couldn't help imagining it. All three of us in the same room. Her sitting across from him. Me next to him. The silence thick with past and present colliding. I imagined his knee brushing mine under the table. Her not seeing it. My eyes locking with his. That invisible pull. The kind that exists only when something isn't allowed, but is already happening anyway. I shouldn't want this. I didn't want it. But in the darkness of my bedroom, tangled in sheets, I let the fantasy come closer. I pictured her hair falling over her shoulder. I pictured the way she might lean into him. The way he might lean just slightly back toward me. A triangle of tension. No escape. I told myself it was just imagination. Just something wild and fleeting, like a storm cloud that passes without rain. But the next morning I got a second message. From him. Can I ask you something? Did you tell anyone? My fingers paused. I replied. Only the walls. They're terrible gossips. He didn't laugh. She knows something's off. I didn't tell her. But she knows. Then a pause. Then, I can't stop thinking about the look on your face when I touched your arm. I waited. One more message came through. I think about it when I'm with her. My breath hitched. And just like that, fantasy wasn't fantasy anymore. The next time I saw him, it wasn't planned. Or maybe it was, but neither of us admitted it. He buzzed my apartment just after 10. No message. No warning. Just that low electric chime that sent heat racing up my spine. I opened the door without thinking, without brushing my hair or fixing my sweater. Just opened it bare and barefoot again. And there he was. This time without the jacket. But I didn't need it anymore. Because whatever he'd tucked inside that lining, whatever pieces of himself he thought were hidden, had already spilled out. Into me. Into the space between us. He didn't speak. Not right away. He just stepped inside and closed the door behind him like it was the most natural thing in the world. And then we stood there, inches apart, silence pressed tight like skin on skin. I didn't plan this, he said. You say that, I whispered, but you showed up. He nodded once. Then, his voice dropped lower than I'd ever heard it. I wore the jacket again last night. My heart thumped against my ribs. I put my hand in the pocket, looking for the note, and found something else. I blinked. What? He reached into his back pocket and pulled out a folded scrap of paper. My handwriting. A note I never meant to give him. The one I wrote weeks ago, the one I tucked away under my pillow. Private. Too dangerous. Too real. You left it, he said. I think you wanted me to find it. I stepped back, breath hitching. He unfolded it slowly. His fingers moved like he was unwrapping something sacred. When he looked up again, his eyes were darker. Sharper. You said you dreamed of me watching you from across a room. That you liked the idea of being looked at. Wanted it. I swallowed hard. I wrote that when I didn't think you'd ever see it. But I did. Silence stretched. Sweet. Sinister. He took another step. What if I told you I think about it constantly? What if I told you I imagined that night? Not just you and me, but... I stopped breathing. You think about her too, I said. Don't you? His jaw tightened. Then he nodded. I think about her watching, he said. Watching us. Knowing exactly what's happening and not stopping it. My whole body trembled. Not from fear. Not from shame. From release. From the terrible, beautiful weight of finally hearing the truth I had already felt in my bones. I never meant to want that, I whispered. But it's in me now. And I don't know how to put it back. You don't have to. He stepped forward again. And this time he touched me. Not rushed. Not greedy. Just his hand against my cheek, thumb tracing the corner of my mouth like he was memorizing softness. Like he needed a place to land. I leaned in. Our foreheads touched. And everything slowed. The world narrowed to breath. To the space between lips. To the silent, perfect moment before undoing. His voice was a whisper barely there. Still want me to read what happens next? My answer came from instinct, not words. I tilted my chin. Eyes closed. Breath caught. Waiting. And then, he kissed me. Not like the first page of something new, but like the final line of something we'd been writing for years.